the fake news media.
Today on Fox 11 News In Depth, you hear it all the time. Fake news, conspiracy theories. So how do you know what's true and what's false? We'll talk to an organization teaching kids how to navigate the flood of information online. Also, first the fires that devastated Southern California, now the recovery. We'll tell you about one group that replants trees on fire-ravaged hillsides. Plus, we have a state legislature, county boards, city councils, but how much do you know about your neighborhood council? That's right, neighborhood councils. What are they, and what do they do? Fox 11 News In Depth starts right now. Hello, everyone. I'm Hal Eisner. When I first started in the news business 52 years ago, that's right, 52 years ago, no one talked about fake news, but now it's a buzzword. The term was first coined to describe stories that were completely untrue. Now it's morphed into a critique of the mainstream media. So how do you tell fake news from real news? It depends on who you ask.
That we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony.
Fake news.
Fake news. Fake news.
With the phrase fake news coming up again and again, it's hard to know just what to believe. But there's no hiding this fact. False conspiracy theories are all over the internet. Some people out there think Sandy Hook never happened. Still others believe Hillary Clinton was running a child sex ring out of a pizza parlor.
You know, the fact that anyone would continue to perpetuate that lie it's a little unsettling.
And those false conspiracy theories have real, true consequences. Edgar Welch went to Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington, D.C. with an assault rifle, firing 3 shots, hoping to rescue children from these so-called Clinton sex traffickers. He surrendered when he realized no exploited kids were there. He's now doing a 4-year stretch in prison.
I really hope that all of these people fanning the flames of this conspiracy would take a moment to contemplate what has gone on here today and maybe to stop.
Lucy Richards was convinced the tragic Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax, that the parents were all crisis actors. She sent threatening letters to one father saying, and these were her words, "You gonna die. Death is coming to you real soon." She was also sent to prison.
It's as phony as a $3 bill.
Alex Jones of InfoWars is accused of helping spread the Sandy Hook conspiracy theory, encouraging listeners to go there and investigate for themselves. Now a group of Sandy Hook parents is suing Jones, accusing him of spreading lies about them. In a deposition, Jones is now admitting the Sandy Hook shooting was real.
Don't go investigate it. I believe mass shootings happened, and I'm sorry, and some of the anomalies we were told were wrong. And I've said it, I've probably been saying that 4 years.
Just this week, Twitter announced new tools to stop misinformation about voting. Specifically, they're encouraging people to report tweets that give false information about how to vote or how to register. But for now, the tools will be available only in India and the European Union. And that brings us to our guest. So how do you separate fact from fiction with so much information out there? An organization called the News Literacy Project helps students learn to figure out some of that on their own. Alan Miller is the founder and CEO of the News Literacy Project, and Valeria LUQUIN is a student who took the courses. So let's start with Alan and tell us, what is this project? What made you do this? And let's let everybody know you used to work for the LA Times.
Indeed, I did, Hal. It's a pleasure to be here. I spent 21 years with the Los Angeles Times before starting the News Literacy Project in 2008, well before fake news and alternative facts and Russian disinformation became such a part of our consciousness. What we do is we create resources and work with educators to teach middle school and high school students how to know what news and information to trust and to give them the tools to be informed and engaged participants in a democracy.
You know, it's interesting to me, you know, we talked about Sandy Hook, we talked about the pizza parlor story. Is it social media that perpetuates these things, and that's how they go from really weird ideas to what some people consider to be news?
Well, we live in the most challenging information landscape in human history. I mean, today's students have more good and valuable information available literally at their fingertips than ever before. But as your opening indicated, it is competing for their attention with so much more information intended to sell or persuade or mislead or exploit or misinform. And they're getting most of what they see through social media, through their feeds. And news is embedded there, but it's competing for their attention with so much else that is not intended to inform them in a dispassionate and accurate and responsible way.
So there are school districts you work with, and still some you are trying to work deals with, I suppose. And Valeria goes to a school that you are working with. What school do you go to?
Daniel Pearl Magnet High School.
Okay. And what do you want to be when you grow up?
Maybe a journalist.
Okay. A real journalist, right?
Yeah.
All right. And so what kinds of things do you teach her? What is that curriculum? And then I want to hear from you, Valeria, to tell me a little bit about how that strikes you when you hear about these things. Start with that one.
Sure. So our primary resource is our Checkology virtual classroom.
Checkology.
Checkology. You want to create a next generation of checkologists who check things out. And it's a cutting-edge online platform with real-world lessons led by journalists and other experts in the First Amendment and digital media. And students are introduced to kind of a spectrum of information: what is news, opinion, advertising, propaganda, all before you get to misinformation, disinformation, making things up. They are taught about the First Amendment and the role of a free press in a democracy. And then they're really given the tools to become news literate and upstanders for facts on their own.
Okay, Valeria, so what did you learn, and how long have you been studying this?
I've been using it since the beginning of the school year in my journalism class, and I've learned how to be more aware and alert about what's on the news. And how do
Give me an example of something that's fake and something that's real that you would not have realized had you not taken this class.
Well, I know that certain things that some people may say may not be true, like social media, can sometimes say that or can explain that.
So sometimes you see things, your immediate instinct is not to take them as truth. Is that what you try to teach them? Read it, think about it, but don't immediately accept it?
Yes, we want to create a habit of mind where they ask themselves, what am I looking at? Is this news? Is this opinion? Is this advertising? What are the sources? Can I tell who the sources are behind this? What's the documentation? What is their bias? Is this intended to incite or exploit, or rather to inform? What about my own bias that I bring to what I'm looking at? We want them to get a wide range of sources, to follow stories over time, and ultimately to ask themselves about everything they encounter. Should I trust this? Should I share it? And should I act on it?
Well, oftentimes in journalism, there's sort of an axiom of trust but verify, or to question, or not to take things as fact just because somebody says it's fact. Is that one of the things you try to teach?
Yes, I mean, we like the axiom, you no doubt know, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. And in fact, we want students to be skeptical and engaged consumers and sharers and creators of information, not cynical. We want them to understand it's not all created equal. There are credible sources and there is credible information, but it's up to them to make the determination about what they should do with that information. I
want to let Valeria have the last word, because I want to know from you, do you look at the news, especially on social media, differently now than before you took the class?
Before I took the class, I would watch the news, but not really paying attention to it as much. And after taking the class, I'm more aware, and I try to distinguish how factual it is and how important it is.
All right, I want to hear you. Repeat after me, okay? I'm Valeria LUQUIN, back to you in the studio.
I'm Valeria LUQUIN, back to you in the studio.
I think you have a future.
Thank you.
That's very exciting. Okay, great. Thanks for being here. I know that, fake news is often something that I'm very uncomfortable hearing about. I often tell people I get an allergic reaction to just the words. But there's a long history of the media not being trusted, particularly among presidents of the United States. Nobody has ever made it as big and a concrete deal as the current president, but now you've taken advantage of that, and you're trying to teach people the other way around, and I thank you for being here. Thank you for your future, being a broadcaster, to come along and do this show after I do it. Still ahead, we switch to a completely different topic, planting new trees after the recent wildfires. We'll meet a group called Tree People who help bring a lot more green, not only to wild places, but to urban spaces also. Coming up right after the break.
Trees' roots act as giant sponges to capture the rain and help filter the water we drink. Trees help hold the soil together and help prevent erosion and mudslides during rainy weather. Trees can help cool large urban landscapes from ever-increasing threats of global warming.
You're looking at a video put out by an organization called Tree People. You may not know them, you may not know anything about them, or you may, but maybe some of you have seen the trees they planted and you didn't even know it. They've helped replenish fire-ravaged hillsides, and they've added some much-needed green to LA's urban areas. Well, let's meet Andy Lipkus, who's a president and founder of Tree People, and Brian Reckart. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And he's the Tree People's director of forestry. And, you know, I'm very interested in what you're doing. I'm also very interested in something about these trees. I know we've done a lot of stories about the bark beetle and the drought and the impact on our trees. We're kind of focusing right now on fire-ravaged hillsides and trees that were lost to wildfires. And so, first of all, what is it that Tree People sets out to do? You've been around for a while.
Right. Well, we're actually here to make LA safe, fun, sustainable, and resilient, right? And safety is critical as our fires are getting worse and it's getting hotter, and trees provide protection.
Right.
Tree people is one word because when we separate trees and people, we get into trouble, but they protect us. Even oak trees, our native trees, actually saved homes because they caught the burning embers and they don't ignite. So we teach people and we work really hard. But all our work is done with volunteers.
Now, it's not just a matter of the safety. It's also a matter of things that you don't even realize that trees do. For instance, I have a great big old tree in front of my house. It probably keeps our temperature a little cooler, and so we're not driving the thermostat as high because of that tree, right?
You're saving energy,
Yeah.
but you're also now, believe it or not, LA is the first city in America where people have died of severe heat in winter. This is a new problem. But cities in Australia that have been dealing with the same issue for over 15 years ahead of us, Melbourne's just like LA, and with generally 20% tree canopy, they've set a goal of 40% to lower peak temperatures by 7 to 10 degrees. You can do it right around your home, and you can do it throughout your neighborhood. But we need everyone to join in and help make it happen.
Brian, I want to ask you about trees that have been damaged, killed, destroyed. Talk to me a little bit about these fires and what they do to these trees.
So most of the fires we're having and most recently are they call them flashy fuel fires, which means those tall grasses that grow nice and green, like right now you're seeing it after we had this nice spring. They're all green with nice yellow flowers. It's actually a very invasive plant, and in about a month, it'll be dead standing matchsticks. And those actually can help the fire walk up the tree, in a sense, and burn the crown.
And so when you burn the crown, that kills the root system?
No, because most of our native trees are made to go through a fire, to go underneath the tree canopy
right?
And survive.
And survive. And it actually keeps the forest thinned and healthy. But once it gets into the canopy, then that can be a major issue.
How many trees are you putting out there right now?
Well, it's thousands, it's tens of thousands. We're working both in the Santa Monica Mountains, where we have been working for the last 15, 18 years. And the great story is the oak trees, the native trees that we've been planting, and that, as Brian has said, we've removed with our partner agencies like the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, we've removed those non-native grasses. The fire, the massive Woolsey fire, came right to the sites and jumped over and didn't burn our trees. And of course, they didn't ignite because oaks don't. In the higher mountains, we're using other natives, and it's that technique. And so we're hoping, we don't plant immediately because we have to see what happens on the site after the fire. As Brian said, the roots are still alive in all our native chaparral, and we want to be careful to allow that to resprout.
But these fires, and we're looking at video right now,
Yeah.
they're just incredibly destructive.
They are, and it's part of the way of life in Southern California, but if we follow the kinds of protocols that we can remove more of that flashy fuel and make it safer.
I think, Brian, there's no poem that I think I learned in elementary school 1,000 years ago. And it was something to the effect of, I think I shall never see anything as beautiful as a tree. Is that kind of how that goes?
Close enough.
Yeah, and so, you know, a lot of people do have a great appreciation for trees. And trees are a very important part of our landscape. And sometimes you drive up and down your street, the trees are there, you don't think about them.
Right, but almost every tree in the city was planted by someone. And because it's drier and it's hotter, they don't live by themselves. So if you want to see trees, whether it's in the mountains or on your street, it takes people. It takes people coming out, we could never afford to hire the millions of people who've worked with us over the years.
So is the message that it's not just a matter of taking care of your dogs and your cats, you got to take care of your trees?
You do, and they will take care of you.
They will take care of you. Okay, very good. I think.
By the way, one of the best things about this work is people come together from all different cultures, all different politics. In this, we're working together, we're building strength in our community beyond politics, and that's what we need. And that's one of the ways they take care of us.
I think that it was 20 years ago you put down the roots of this organization. Did you get that, the roots of this organization?
Yeah. No, I started it back in 1973.
All right. Well, then it's been going on for a while. Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you. Still ahead, do you know who's on your neighborhood council or when they meet? When we come back, we'll learn more about these councils, what they do, and why you might want to get involved. We'll be back.
LA's 99 neighborhood councils are your direct connection to City Hall. A great way to make a difference for your family, friends, and neighbors.
No matter where you live in Los Angeles, you probably have a neighborhood council, but you may not even realize it. The councils were established 20 years ago to advocate for their communities on important issues like development, traffic, homelessness. Neighborhood council board members are elected by their communities. They're city officials, but they donate their time as unpaid volunteers. And joining us now are two of the people intricately involved in all of this, Gracie Liu, who's general manager of Empower LA, and Eli Lipman, commissioner of neighborhood councils. And where do I start? I think I'll start with ladies first. And Gracie, why don't you tell us, because you work for the city, why don't you explain to us how long these councils have been around? A lot of people may not even realize they have one, and there are 99 of them.
That's correct. There's 99 of them, and they've been around almost 20 years. So they're created in 1999 when the Angelenos voted them in.
Why? Why was it important?
Well, you know, at the time, people didn't feel like they had a voice at City Hall. And so what they wanted to do was create these councils in the neighborhoods, in the communities, so they could tell people about what's going on in their neighborhood, and so that they could address those issues.
So is that a layer under the city council? We're looking at city council video right now, but is that sort of, they report to the city council?
They advise them, yeah. I mean, we provide advice to city council, we recommend things to city council, and help them make better decisions that are more community based.
Well, how effective is that?
That's very effective.
Let's say you offer 10 ideas.
Right.
How many of those ideas might get actually implemented?
A decent amount. I mean, it depends by city council member. But, you know, for me personally, I got involved because I wanted to see better parks in my neighborhood. I was having kids, and, you know, I didn't like the parks in my neighborhood. There wasn't a lot of access to parks, so I worked with other neighborhood council leaders, and we advocated to our city council member to allocate money towards our local park to redo our park. And now we have this gorgeous park. I was just there yesterday, and it was just incredible to see.
It makes you smile, I can tell.
Absolutely, because my kids can go there and they call it Daddy's Park, right? Because they know that I helped to reform it.
Can you get the city to put an official sign on that park that says Daddy's Park?
I tried, don't worry.
I'm sure you do. Well, what I want to understand about that, though, there are laws now about development that you have to include parks in so many miles of residential area. Is that because of the work of neighborhood councils?
Well, neighborhood councils definitely have input into that. And don't forget, they can not only talk to city council, but they can talk to all the city departments. So if you have something wrong with your streets or trees or safety or any kind of planning issue, they can be the voice of that community. And it's really important to have them there.
That's one of the things I think I took the most out of the neighborhood council system is learning about city government. Because it's really confusing, right? You're like, why is this broken or why isn't this getting done? And by going through the neighborhood council system, you learn who to call and you learn how to get stuff done. If I hadn't been in the neighborhood council, that park would still look the same way it does today.
So there are people out there who may not even realize that they have a neighborhood council.
Right.
So Who do they call to find out? 311, for instance? How do they find out? And if they want to get involved, how do they get involved?
Sure, they can go to our website, empowerla.org.
Empowerla.org.
Empowerla.org, and they can learn all about neighborhood councils, what neighborhood councils they're in, and what seats they qualify for. And that's the great thing about neighborhood councils. You don't have to just reside there to participate. It's live, work, own property. Right. You go to church there. You board horses in an area. Anything that gives you a stake in the community, you can be a part of the neighborhood council.
And it's really community-based government and the closest form of government to the people. And you could even just go like your community and neighborhood council and Google that, and you'll find the website for each neighborhood council in your neighborhood, and you'll find when they're meeting, what they're doing, what events are coming up.
And you may also find out they have elections going on right now.
Yep.
And so that's over the next few weeks. And so you can help be involved in selecting who represents you. And I guess I have one more question. Now that you've been a commissioner, are you ready to run for mayor?
No, thank you.
Because you got Daddy's Park already. Maybe you could get, something else.
No, our mayor's doing a great job, and I'm working on raising 3 kids right now. So
well, that's a big job, too, isn't it?
It's a very big job,
What's the bottom line with regard to these councils?
You should get involved. I mean, they speak for your community. You should vote at our elections. You should go and work on a committee there or work on their council. Just get involved.
I think, the one thing that's interesting to me about these sort of tiers of government is the notion that if you can't get involved in this tier, you can get involved in that one.
Right.
And that was the idea, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing is like everybody has a complaint, right, about their neighborhood. Oh, this isn't happening. There's a pothole. This tree is not right. This is the way that you can take that complaint and actually do something about it and get involved with your community.
Well, let me talk to you about those potholes.
What neighborhood council are you in?
Right.
So, yeah.
No, I think it's great to be able to have a number you can call. I know the city has an information line at 311.
Right.
And if you have questions about what's happening in Los Angeles, you can call 311. But now you also know that you can call or go to the website for empowerla.com, and you can get involved that way as well. Thank you both for being here. Really appreciate it, and thanks for the information. Still ahead, I'll tell you about 2 new podcasts. One of them is a true crime case that rocked the LA Police Department. That's coming up. Okay, time to talk about my podcast, What the Hell, where you can now listen to more on this conversation we had about fake versus real news. And check this out, a big project here at Fox 11, a special multi-part look back on the case of Christopher Dorner, his manifesto, his rampage, and his demise, all on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you subscribe to podcasts. That's it for this week. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Have a good week, everybody.